What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel Hand Waving. Your friend Naruto Addict 2.0 is here again with a brand new Naruto fanfic that's going to change everything. A story where Naruto is betrayed and banished. But destiny has bigger plans for him. From exile to emperor, this is the journey of power, strategy, and love. Today's fanfic is titled, What If Neglected Naruto Snapped During the Chunin Exams and Claimed His Harem? Part 1. Naruto watched the fight between Hinata and Neji with growing anger towards the latter because of the attitude Neji was showing all through the fight. The anger has even grown to a point that he was considering dropping his mask and beating the shit out of Neji. Those were his thoughts before everything went red as he saw Neji go in for a death strike at a defenseless Hinata. The mask, Neji is not leaving this place alive, Naruto muttered as he disappeared from the balcony. Appearing down in the area along with the other Chunin, but unlike the Chunin who chose to restrain Neji, he chose to rather punch Neji straight in the face, sending him back a bit. What the hell is wrong with your attitude? Is that stick so far up your that it has blinded you? Naruto shouted at Neji, who was getting up, trying to get his head to stop spinning. After calming down and getting his vision to see straight again, Neji glared at Naruto saying, "What is it to you? What right do you have to ridicule me, you peasant? Do not speak to me like you know me." Neji looked at Hinata, who was getting checked on by multiple medical nin and her sensei. Either way, it looks like the main branch will always get the best treatment, typical, Neji sneered. The look on Neji's face and his comment were both more than enough to push Naruto off the edge. Okay, that's it. Neji is getting the beating of the lifetime and no one is stopping me. Naruto thought in his head. Just as Naruto was about to charge Neji, a hand on his shoulder stopped him. Calm down, Naruto. If you fight him now without permission, you could be disqualified from the exam. You already fought, so just calm down, Kakashi said from behind Naruto. Naruto looked up at Kakashi for a second before he shrugged off his hand. Naruto wa. Kakashi never finished due to Naruto speaking to the proctor. Hey proctor, mind if I have a fight with Neji? This statement not only surprised the proctor but everyone in the audience. Naruto, what do you think you are doing? Just stop this nonsense and get back up here, you idiot. Sakura screamed out after hearing what Naruto had said. Naruto ignored her as he looked at the proctor for his answer. Well, you both have fought already, and both of you already have your wins to continue. What reason would there be for you two to fight? Naruto thought for a few seconds before answering. If you let us fight in an official fight, then I bet my win on this match. If Neji wins, then I am disqualified from the exam, but if I win, then nothing changes and Neji is not disqualified. It's a win-win situation for everyone. This surprised everyone yet again, especially the people that know Naruto personally. Is that really Naruto? I half expected him to rant and whine about fighting him, but instead he threw up a compromise that might just work. Interesting. What have you kept from me, Naruto? Thought the third Hokage as he looked out at the arena. The proctor was about to argue that such a deal is against the rules but was interrupted by the third Hokage himself. It's alright, Hayate, I allow this fight to happen, but Naruto, the conditions you set are to be kept true, so if you lose then you are out of the exam. Do I make myself clear? After hearing that, a huge smile came onto Naruto's face as he gave the Hokage a thumbs up. The Hokage, seeing this, just sighed before nodding at Hayate to start the match. Seeing the nod, Hayate just let out a shallow breath and a few coughs before shouting. Alright then, seeing as the Hokage has approved of it, the fight between Naruto and Neji shall commence. Neji looked happy at the turn of events, seeing as he was getting the chance to beat the utter shit out of his cousin's love interest. This is going to be a quick match, proctor. Don't go too far, Neji said, letting out a sinister smile. Naruto finally turned to Neji, and once seeing his smile, let out a smile of his own, but this smile was more of fox-like one. But this smile, to Neji, looked a lot more sinister than mischievous. Suddenly a shiver went down Neji's back as he thought. Why do I feel like I've made a grave mistake? No matter, this loser is not going to stand a chance against me, fate has decreed it so. Seeing no resistance from either fighter, Hayate raised his hand to start the match, both fighters ready. Seeing both nod. Taking on final look at both teens, he noticed Naruto rubbing and twisting something under his jacket near his hands. Interesting, begin. He shouted as he jumped back at the right moment because both boys, right at his word, shot toward each other, sending out an attack which hit each other in the center. Neji was surprised to see a fist block his gentle first strike, but he did not let this bother him as he quickly brought back that arm only to let out a few more chakra-filled strikes. Yet again he was surprised as all of his strikes were blocked by a punch from Naruto. He is able to keep up to me. Interesting but useless, as his arms should be getting numb from getting hit multiple times, Neji thought as he jumped back a bit. He was shocked to see that Naruto had followed him back with his fist back ready to hit him. What? Was all Neji was able to let out before he was punched back into the wall by Naruto. He hit the wall with a loud bang from the force of Naruto's punch. Was his punch chakra infused? How does he know how to do that, and to such a level? Neji thought as he got up from the floor, wiping off the blood from his lips. He looked out at Naruto to see him and 3 clones standing there. The middle was waving his hand a bit. So the middle is the real one, huh? Neji muttered as he heard the middle Naruto shout to him, "You know that head of yours is really hard, almost broke my hand from that punch." This enraged Neji, seeing as Naruto was not taking this fight seriously. With a battle cry he shot off towards Naruto, hands blazing with chakra, intent to shut the blonde boy up for good. All 3 Narutos smirked at the charging Neji and got ready to receive any attack the Hyuga would dish out. "Neji, don't. Why are you so hot-headed? Not very youthful of you at all," Guy said as he watched Neji charge Naruto out of rage. "But I have to say, Kakashi, I did not notice it at first, but your student is very well trained." While Neji was attacking before, he blocked all of his strikes with a chakra-infused fist, nullifying the gentle fist strikes that Neji was trying to give out. "Did you teach him that?" Kakashi was going to ignore Guy like always, but thought differently when he saw that Guy was serious about his question. Sighing, he says, "No, I did not teach him that. It was all on his own. I'm just as surprised you are. I knew he had more potential and was stronger than he let on, but I never knew he would be able to take on a Hyuga this easily." Guy looked confused at what Kakashi said last. "What do you mean, Kakashi? It is not that easy for him. He can't even attack, seeing as all he does is defend." Kakashi sighed yet again and said, "You are not looking hard enough then. I guess that is why your student turned out this way. You never saw that his anger for his family has been growing all this time." Guy would have gotten mad at Kakashi's statement, but a glitter on the arena got his attention. When he looked closer, he was shocked into silence for a few seconds. "Kakashi, what has your student learned to be able to do this while facing a Hyuga?" Guy asked. Kakashi honestly looked like he did not know what to say until he simply said, "To be honest, Guy, I don't know, but what I do know is that your student has made a mistake in making Naruto mad." Guy looked at the arena sadly as he thought, "Am I really so blind to my own students? I'm sorry, Neji. I promise that I will try harder from now on, or I will run 20 laps around the village, and if I can't do that, then." Back down in the arena, Neji was getting more annoyed by the second. None of his attacks were landing, and even the blocked ones were not having any effect. He was able to get rid of the 2 clones, but that did not help, seeing that the real Naruto still did not let him land any hits. He was about to launch a strike to Naruto's head, but was forced to jump back as a fist suddenly appeared from his left. Just barely jumping back, Neji did not see another clone appear next to him, kicking him in the stomach, sending him back a bit. Neji landed in a crouch, holding onto his stomach and lunge. Such a powerful kick. I can't get hit by that again, or else it's over for me. And the clones, I thought I got rid of them. When did he make more? More and more. This is not looking good. But how? Fate said that I will win, not this orphaned loser. Neji got up to see Naruto stretching his arms to his sides. After finishing his stretching, Naruto spread his arms wide, showing to the surprise of everyone in the arena multiple glittering ninja wire. "I think it's time I wrap this fight up, don't you think? I thought this fight would be more fun, but you let your anger and suffering control you too much, blinding you to everything else around you. Naruto said with a bored expression on his face. At Naruto's statement, Neji got even angrier. What the hell do you know, loser? I have the Byakugan. I have no blind spots and I see everything. You said that my anger binds me, but what the hell do you know of suffering? Huh. Neji screamed as he ran toward Naruto with greater speeds than before. Naruto did not look fazed at the charging Neji. All he did was lift his hand saying, I know a lot more than you think about suffering. All of a sudden Neji found himself tripping and crashing into the ground. Neji got up and looked around with a bewildered expression on his face. What was that just now? He said, looking at Naruto, who had not moved at all. This is your loss, Naruto simply said as he swung his arm down and running towards Neji. Neji was about to jump back but found himself stuck in place. I can't move. Wait, no, it's more like something is constricted around me, Neji thought before Naruto appeared in front of him and with a quick hand seal 3 clones popped into existence. The first went up and kicked Neji up into the air. The second jumped off the first clone's back and kicked Neji again, sending him further up. In the air, Neji was able to get a good look at the area, and as such was able to see the ninja wire everywhere in the arena, so that was how he was able to do that. He controlled me throughout the fight and I let him do it. As soon as Neji finished his thought, the real Naruto appeared above him and without waiting a second he slammed both of his hands down onto Neji's stomach, sending him sailing toward the ground, making a small crater. Neji was barely able to get up as there was too much pain in his stomach from the hit Naruto gave him. Looking up, he saw Naruto running toward him. Knowing that he was about to be knocked out and given no mercy, one thing came to mind. But I was going to keep this until the finals at least. But with the way this fight is going, I have no choice. If I am to have any chance at winning, then I have to use it, thought Neji before he stood up straight and lowered his upper half a bit, ignoring the pain in his stomach. Naruto saw what Neji was doing and got a shocked look on his face. He is able to do that? Shit, this just got more troublesome, he muttered as Neji spun around, creating a blue dome of chakra while screaming, rotation. Naruto, not being able to get away in time, got hit by the chakra dome, sending him back across the arena. Neji stopped the rotation and seeing that he sent back Naruto, looked pleased, but that soon disappeared when that Naruto burst into smoke, as the real one appeared behind Neji. Neji watched as Naruto appeared behind himself and thought, shit, using two right after the other is not a good idea, but what other choices do I have? Naruto, seeing that Neji was about to launch another rotation, did not look worried as he smirked, looking pleased on the other hand. As the rotation started up, Naruto brought up his hands, bringing up ninja wire all around the forming dome of chakra. When the ninja wire were in the air, Naruto brought in his hands, ordering the wire to constrict on the dome, passing right through the dome and wrapping around the spinning Neji. With that, the technique was cancelled, showing a surprised Neji. How did you do that? The rotation is supposed to be the ultimate defense. Naruto stood there with his hands still facing down and said, simple, your second rotation was weaker than your first, and there is a grave weakness with the rotation. It is made by spinning and releasing chakra all throughout your body, but by doing so you leave small openings in the dome, so small that usually it would not matter. That is to anyone who is not skilled in ninja wire. Naruto finished with a smile. Neji was about to talk but was interrupted by Naruto jumping into the air and spinning around, bringing the wrapped up Neji into the air as well and spinning him around. When he had enough speed, Naruto released Neji from the ninja wire, sending him crashing into the ground, creating a bigger crater than before. But not being done there, Naruto dropped down to Neji and kicked him into the wall, embedding his body into the wall. Everyone in the arena watched as the person they all thought was going to win was being crushed mercilessly. They could not believe that the dead last and weakest of the graduating class can beat someone who was called a prodigy. Naruto was not done though, as he quickly took out a kunai with an explosive tag on it and threw it at Neji. Neji saw the kunai coming and at the same time saw his death coming. This cannot be happening, I can't die yet. Suddenly the kunai stopped right in front of Neji's face, just barely bringing out blood from his forehead. Looking behind the kunai, he saw Naruto there holding the kunai. You're right. You can't die yet. You're not a bad guy, at least not that bad of a guy. I know that you have suffered in your life, what with losing your father to a scandal and having a brand burned to your forehead for all of your life. But what you need to understand is that you are not the only one who has ever suffered, someone is suffering right in front of your face and you can't see it. Once you get that stick out of your and become less of a fate-driven asshole, come find me and we can have a rematch. Naruto finished his mini speech to Neji with a big genuine smile. Neji looked confused for a while before he remembered his father's words and all the times Hinata had tried to be nice to him and all he did was brush her off and be rude to her. He even tried to kill the person he was supposed to protect. Neji looked down as his hair overshadowed his eyes. I can't even protect my cousin, I have been blind this whole time, and I never realized it. I have been such an idiot, I hope Hinata does not hate me for what I did. Neji thought in a depressed tone. Seeing the sad look on Neji's face, Naruto sighed before putting the kunai away and bending down and slinging one of Neji's hands around his shoulders and helping him stand up. You know Hinata does not hate you, I can guarantee that, it's just not the person that she is. At the sudden movement, Neji looked up with a shocked expression before saying, "What are you doing? What does it look like? I am helping you get to the medical ward," Naruto said simply as he walked toward the exit of the arena, not paying attention to the gossiping crowd or Hayate shouting out the winner. But, why help me? I thought you did not like me, Neji said after a few seconds of silence. Naruto looked at Neji for a second before speaking in a playful tone, "Oh, I do hate you, at least the current you. There is time for you change, like I said, you are not a bad person, just misguided. Even with that stick up you are still a Konoha shinobi and I always help my comrades, even if they are brooding assholes." After he finished talking, Naruto had to dodge a slow swing from Neji over the last comment. He was afraid that he had made Neji mad, that is until he heard a weak laugh coming from beside him. Looking over, he saw Neji with a small smile on his face chuckling softly. After seeing that, he also started to laugh before Neji started to cough a bit. "Come on, let's get you to the med ward, I think you may have broken a few ribs," Naruto said, receiving a nod from Neji. Both boys did not notice two shadows at the end of the hallway they just exited. Suddenly two men stepped out of the shadows. You know, I have never seen Neji laugh ever since I became his sensei. I guess I have to thank Naruto in more ways than one for helping out one of my students. And you as well, Kakashi, you opened my eyes that I have not been mindful of my students as I should have been, Guy said, leaning on the wall looking at Kakashi across the hallway. Kakashi looked almost surprised at the sullen look on Guy's face. You have nothing to thank me for. Naruto did everything, I just commented on some things. Though I now know there is more to my students than I one knew, at least in Naruto's case that is. Guy chuckled at the comment before saying, yes, that is true, and well, don't you think we should get back? You have to draw the opponents for two of your students now. All Kakashi did was nod, and with one last look down the hallway that Naruto and Neji went down, he followed Guy back to the arena. It was another calm and quiet day in Konoha, as Naruto sat on the floor of his apartment with his legs folded under him, silently meditating. Everything was calm and still as Naruto tried to stay still while letting out slow and even breaths. Breath in, out, in, OU. Naruto's thoughts were cut off by loud knocking from the main door. God damn it, why does someone always interrupt me when I want to be left alone? Naruto mumbled as he tried to ignore the knocking and continue meditating. That was his intention until he heard a voice from behind the door. Naruto, I know you are in there. I'm coming in, I need to talk to you. Naruto's eyes snapped open as he sprung up from his spot and looked at the door in panic. Wait, hold on, give me a second, old man, Naruto shouted as he quickly snapped his hands out, catching onto the wires that were going all throughout his apartment. Making a swirling motion with his hands, Naruto watched as hundreds of ninja wires snapped off where they were attached to and started to circle around his arms, completely covering his arms, only leaving his elbows open so he was able to bend his arms. Seeing that there were no stray wires anywhere, Naruto pulled down the sleeves of his jacket and quickly opened the front door. As he opened the door, Naruto found the third Hokage in the motion of opening the door. Naruto, why did you not answer to when I first knocked, or rather why did you sound panicked when I wanted to come in? Naruto put a sheepish look on his face as he rubbed his neck with one hand. Haha, oh I was yeah, I wasn't had to get dressed, Naruto stumbled out with a laugh. The third Hokage gave him a suspicious look but decided to leave it for later as he walked into the apartment and quickly gave it a look over. So, how is life for you, Naruto? Have you been able to get someone to teach you for the 1 month break? The Hokage said as he sat down on the sofa. Naruto closed the door and made his way over to the chair opposite to the Hokage before answering. Ah, life's good and all, old man. As for a sensei, no luck in that department. Kakashi dropped me to train Sasuke, and even the guy that he got to teach me sucked, so I just left. I was going to train by myself if I could not find anyone. The Hokage nodded, rubbing his beard as he thought, okay, but that was not why I came here. The real reason was to find out how long you are going to hide your real strength from the village, or more importantly me. Naruto's eyes widened as he started to think of lies that might work in this situation, but he knew that none would work seeing as what he had done at the preliminaries. Naruto sighed before saying, what do you want to know? The Hokage looked surprised at how quickly Naruto gave up, but I guess it makes sense seeing as he is much different than he lets on. Now what to ask? Finishing his thoughts, the Hokage simply asks, so, when did you decide to hide your strength? Ever since the end of my first year in the academy, I could have passed with flying colors seeing as I had already knew the Kage Bunshin by that time. Naruto was cut off by a slight yell from the Hokage. You knew the Kage Bunshin at such a young age? How? Naruto looked sheepish as he answered, well, the hiding place of the Scroll of Seals is not a very good one. I have to admit that for a trained shinobi, to have the real thing displayed in the office would work 8 out of 10 times. But to a curious 6-year-old, it might as well have a big red sign over it that reads, the Scroll of Seals is here, come take it, The Hokage looked surprised at this. I never thought of it that way, thank you, I guess, for pointing that out. Anyway, that was when you learned the jutsu, I suppose. Seeing a nod from Naruto, the Hokage continued his questioning. Okay, so you learned a high-ranking kinjutsu at a young age, what else are you hiding? The Hokage said as he thought, though I'm sure I don't really want to find out some of it. Naruto thought for a moment before speaking, well, do you remember the book you gave me on the ninja that was very skilled with ninja wires? Seeing a nod from the Hokage, Naruto continued, well, I took that to heart and actually devoted myself to learning everything about ninja wire. Naruto, you can't possibly tell me that you actually tried to learn from that book, it was just a story book, right? The Hokage asked. Naruto looked at the Hokage for a few seconds before bringing up his hand, and with a quick flick of his wrist, wires shot out of his sleeve and attacked themselves to a photo on the table across from Naruto. With another flick of his wrist, the photo was in Naruto's hand as the wires disappeared into Naruto's sleeves. The Hokage had a look of shock as Naruto began to speak. It may have been just a story, but every story has a hint of truth to it, and this was the truth I took out from it. But how? It should not be possible to use ninja wire this way. The Hokage said, still in shock. It really is a simple answer, old man, chakra. This is not normal ninja wire that is sold, it is chakra conducting wires. When I came up with the idea to become like the man from the story, it did not start out well. The first time I tried to use ninja wire, all I ended up doing was wrapping myself up for the entire day before I was able to slip out. Then I had the crazy idea to try to add chakra to the wire. We had just learned about chakra from the academy, so I had no idea what I was doing and I ended up burning up the wires. But not before I saw what else the chakra did, it made the wire move somewhat. With not having any other information on chakra and the academy teaching not wanting to help me, I was forced to sneak into the library and steal some books. Naruto explained before being interrupted by the Hokage. You snuck into the library at such a young age. You can't possibly believe that you can convince me that you were able to sneak past all the shinobi guarding the place. You would be surprised, old man, the shinobi that are supposed to guard the place are even lazier than the two who have eternal gate guard duty. It was rather simple sneaking past them. Please tell me that you did not forget who was able to get into the Anbu HQ and paint all of their uniforms orange. And even give them a good chase for the rest of the day. Naruto said in a mock-hurt tone. Now that I think about it, Naruto has always possessed skills in infiltration and stealth. They may have seemed like simple pranks, but in truth they were a show of skill on his part. How did I miss this? He has always shown his true skills, but I completely ignored all of it, the Hokage thought in a sadness. Quickly getting over the sadness, the Hokage asks Naruto another question. Okay, I may be able to forgive you for sneaking into an official building, but I need to know how you came up with your skills in ninja wires. Well, as I was saying, I later found out that the best things to conduct chakra are special chakra conducting metals. Seeing as I needed wires and most metals are not bendable, I hit a wall. But that was until I heard about a special metal that was both bendable and was very good at conducting metal due to its malleability. It would usually take a lot of money to get some of this metal, but seeing as I only needed a little to make wires, I had it at a lower price. So with this I was able to make some very good chakra conducting wires. Naruto finished his story, out of breath. So is there anything else that you are hiding from me, or is that it, Naruto? The Hokage said, giving Naruto a playful glare. Other than being able to make strategies almost as good as Shikamaru while in battle and some other little things, then nothing too great, old man. The Hokage sighed as he felt a small headache coming on. I don't even want to know, and I am going to leave now to clear my head from all that you have told me. I want you to make a full report on your special ninja wires and how you control them, and I want it on my desk by the end of this month. The Hokage stepped to the door and opened it, but before stepping through it he said one last thing. Oh, and go to the hot springs tomorrow, it may prove to be useful, and don't be too harsh on the pervert. With that the Hokage closed the door, leaving Naruto in silence. Naruto sat there for a few minutes before letting out a long breath of air and getting up and going to bed, wanting to deal with what the Hokage said tomorrow. Naruto was walking down a road in the market district, the village, with the Konoha hot springs in sight up ahead. Ever since he had woken up, Naruto had been thinking of what the Hokage had said. What could there possibly be to do at the hot springs other than to relax, I guess? It's not like I will be able to find a teacher there, will I? Finally getting to the hot springs, standing in the middle of the crossroad, Naruto looked around, seeing civilians either talking to each other or walking by, with a few going into the hot springs. Naruto shrugged his shoulders and let out a sigh. Well, nothing out of the ordinary, other than those Anbu passing by. There is nothing interesting going on. Looking at the hot springs entrance again, Naruto suddenly got a sweat mark as he realized something. The old man never even told me what I'm supposed to do here. All he did was say to come here and nothing else. Am I supposed to go in? Looking around yet again and seeing nothing, Naruto sighs before walking toward the entrance, intending to go in. He was stopped, however, by a quiet giggling before he could go in. Quickly looking around, Naruto sees nothing like before. Am I going crazy or something? Maybe the old man was right, I need to relax. Naruto said, rubbing his neck with one arm. Turning around to walk again, he is stopped again by more giggling. This time though he notices a slight rustling in the trees that are located near where the hot springs were, specifically the women's side of them. So I'm not going crazy, mumbled Naruto as he put on an annoyed face, but someone, as if they think they can get away with peeping while I am here. Quickly crouching down and trying to be as stealthy as possible, Naruto made his way over to the tree before stopping at the base of it to check if he was spotted. Seeing that the peeping Tom was unaware of his presence, Naruto continued up the tree, silently sending chakra to his feet to carry him up the tree. Landing calmly onto the branch right above the peeping Tom, Naruto saw that the offender was a man in his early 50s with a dull green outfit with a red jacket on top. He had a metal-plated headgear on his head, stopping his long white hair from falling over his face, the rest of it going down his back. Huh, so it's an old man, should have figured, thought Naruto as he flicked his wrists, sending some wire to attach to the trunk of the tree, before eyeing the old man with a glint in his eyes. Meanwhile, the old man did not notice any of this as he was too engrossed in the women bathing down below. You know, women in other countries are beautiful and everything, but nothing beats Konoha girls. What I would not do if I could. The old man was brought out of his thoughts when he found himself hanging head first right over the hot springs. Looking up, he saw that he could not move since he was completely tied up with wires which were connected to the tree he was just on. Looking further up, he saw a blonde-haired kid standing on a branch while leaning on the trunk of the tree, with a sinister smile on his face. Hey kid, why the hell did you do this? Get me down from here before they notice, quick. Jiraiya said as quiet as he could while struggling with the wires. Naruto's smile got even bigger as he took a big breath before screaming, "Pervert," and snapping his hands out, commanding the wires to unwrap from Jiraiya and drop him down into the hot springs. Jiraiya screamed as he fell, but still heard Naruto say, "This is what you get, you damn pervert," before he jumped off the tree intending to get out of the area so not to be dragged into the impending beating. Jiraiya quickly righted himself before landing on the water using chakra to stand on it. Goddamn kid dropped me down to my doom. But got to say, to get me like that is impressive, your father would be proud, Naruto. Now to get out of here. Jiraiya was brought out of his thoughts when he sensed a dark aurora behind him. Turning around, his face paled as he saw multiple women standing there with Anko in the lead with kunai and other pointy things in her hand. A loud scream was heard all throughout the village that day. Later on, in a random training ground, Naruto stood in the clearing concentrating on the training post in front of him. Suddenly his eyes snapped open as he flicked his wrist, sending out wires to wrap around the training pole. Sending more chakra through his hands, Naruto saw the training post within a matter of seconds be cut into multiple pieces. As the wires fell to the floor, so did Naruto as he landed on his butt, hours of training finally taking its toll. Looking at the sliced remains of the pole, Naruto had a less than happy expression on his face. Damn, only 5 seconds faster than yesterday. At this speed I will get nowhere. Suddenly Naruto heard clapping coming from behind him as he hears someone say. So it was true that you had come up with your own way to use ninja wire. But I had not thought it was developed to this degree. I got to say congratulations still. Naruto turned around to see the old man from before standing there. What do you want, old man? I really don't want to talk to an old pervert. The old man took on a hurt expression as he said, Hey, I'm not a pervert, I'm a super pervert. I am the great toad sage Jiraiya. He finished his speech with his dance and landed on the frog he had summoned while he was introducing himself. Naruto looked bored though as he was not even looking at Jiraiya but instead rolling up the wire that was on the floor. What do you want, you old pervert? I'm kind of busy as you see. Jiraiya looked sad for a moment before saying with excitement again. Well, I'm here to help you train. The old man told me about what you could do and that you have no teacher, so I thought I would go find you to test you, but it seems that there is no need for that, at least no need to see if you are worthy. Naruto genially interested. If the old man sent the old pervert, then he can't be a normal pervert. But that is for me to find out. Finishing his thoughts, Naruto turned his head away from Jiraiya. Don't need another pervert for a teacher, one is bad enough. For all I know, you could be as bad as Kakashi or worse. Unless you are some kind of wizard in seals, then you can just march your way out of my training field. Jiraiya looked honestly hurt at the rejection from his secret godson, before his face lit up at the last sentence. Smirking a bit, Jiraiya turned on his heels and began to walk away, not before saying, Oh well, I tried. I'll be sure to tell old man Sarutobi that you rejected Konoha's only seal master. In his head, Jiraiya was counting down from 5 as he walked away slowly. At 1 he heard Naruto call out. Hey, hold on, is it true? Are you a seal master? Naruto said as he stared at Jiraiya's retreating back. Jiraiya's smirk got bigger as he turned around to stare at Naruto proudly. Of course it's true, I did train the 4th Hokage himself, and he was a seal master. Naruto at this point almost had stars in his eyes at the mention of his idol. If what he says is true, then he is just what I am looking for. I got to get him to train me. With a mental nod of approval, Naruto said, Alright then, I accept you as my teacher. Jiraiya just shook his head in a no fashion. Hold on there, kid, I still want to test your skills, so first things first, we will have a spar to test your skills, so come when you're ready. Naruto just stood there before smiling. With a flick of his wrist, multiple wires were sent out, just barely missing Jiraiya's head, impaling themselves into the tree behind him. If you want a spar, I'll give you a spar arrow, Senin. Don't call me that, shouted Jiraiya as he ran forward to meet Naruto, beginning the spar. It was the day of the finals of the Chunin exams. The stadium in which the finals are going to take place are completely filled up with citizens, nobles and VIPs from other villages such as the Hokage himself. The Hokage stared down at the field, seeing that there were only 7 genin out there. Hokage, not to be rude, but are there not supposed to be 8 contestants out there, and yet I only see 7. To make matters worse, I don't see Sasuke Uchiha out there. The Hokage said to the Hokage, who was sitting right next to him in a special room. The Hokage looked over at the Hokage with a suspicious glint in his eyes from the Kage's mentioning of Sasuke. Do not fret, Hokage, I am sure that he is just running late. Knowing who his sensei is, it should be expected. The Hokage let out a forced chuckle before saying, yes, Kakashi Hatake, a ninja who would be late for his own funeral. But still, what if he is not here when his match starts? You can't just disqualify him, right? A lot of people have come to watch him fight, myself included. Suspicion growing even more, the Hokage answered calmly. I am sorry to say, but I will be forced to. I can't show favoritism to anyone, not even the last of the Uchiha clan. It will be his own fault for picking up his sensei's tendencies. A look of anger slipped across the Hokage's eyes, but was quickly hidden as he thought. Damn it, now I won't be able to see what Sasuke has. I will have to move my plans up a bit since Gaara's match will be sooner than I expected. Down in the arena, all 8 genin were looking around in amazement at the amount of people that were in the stands. Shikamaru was the first to snap out of it, and with a long sigh he said, "This is all troublesome. Why do I have to compete in this tournament? Maybe I should just forfeit as soon as I have to fight." He was quickly stopped with a smack to the head from Naruto. What the hell do you mean forfeit? You are going out there and you will fight, you lazy bum, Naruto said in an annoyed voice. He was already tired and on edge since he did not get any sleep the day before due to him staying up late to finish a last-minute project. All the while that the genin were conversing between themselves, Genma, the proctor for the finals, was looking at his watch, checking the time constantly. He finally looked at his watch for the last time before adding chakra to his throat, enhancing his voice. Clearing his throat, Genma began to speak in a loud voice. Time has come to a close, and we are going to start the final part of the Chunin exams now. Those who are not here when their fight comes are automatically disqualified, and that is final. Some voices of anger rang out from the crowd, but Genma paid them no attention as he turned to the gathered genin to announce the first pair to fight. Taking out a piece of paper, Genma looked at it before saying out loud, "Alright, first match, would Shino Aburame and Sasuke Uchiha come forward? The rest of you are to go up to the contestant room and wait for your turn." Shino stepped up to Genma as the rest of the genin made their way up to the contestant room. There was an awkward silence as everyone waited for the Sasuke to arrive. 5 minutes passed and Sasuke still has yet to arrive, and even the audience was starting to get annoyed, though they still wished for Sasuke to arrive. With one final look at his watch, Genma raised his hand and announced Shino the winner by disqualification. As the words left his mouth, the crowd exploded into anger as their prince was disqualified. Genma tried to get everyone under control but was unable to, as some were ready to riot because of the disqualification. But that was quickly stopped as a loud voice rang out throughout the arena along with some key. The crowd all turned to see the Hokage standing and not looking pleased. The Hokage drew in a breath as he yet again shouted out, "Sasuke Uchiha is disqualified, and that is final. In the ninja world, those who are late are not needed, and even worse, this kind of lateness may end with a comrade dead on the battlefield. It does not matter if he is the last of his clan, he will not receive such privileges as this. Now Proctor, continue with the finals." Genma cleared his throat, even he felt scared from the Hokage's pseudo speech. Now let's continue on to round 2. Would Shikamaru Nara and Temari of the Sand come down for your match? Temari was the first to arrive, but was soon followed by Shikamaru, who fell down to the arena floor courtesy of Naruto's foot. Shikamaru got up rubbing his butt as he walked up to the proctor muttering something about things being too troublesome and women. The fight went exactly like the original, and since it is not important I will not change it, the next fight is what important, so just continue to read. Everyone was still in shock, not from an awesome and jaw-dropping fight, no, they were in shock from Shikamaru giving up right when he had Temari right where he wanted her to be. On the outside Genma was calm, but on the inside he was cursing with every word that he knew. What the hell is with these kids? These have been the fastest fight I have ever seen. First one never arrives and now another has given up. They better make the next fight count or there might not be any genin left to participate. The audience was having similar thoughts, especially the Cage. Shit, what is going on? This is not what I had planned to happen. This is going way too fast. My men are nowhere near ready for the invasion. I was going to have Kankuro give his match to have him at his best, but now I have no choice. At the same time Kankuro was looking at the Cage and caught the look that he was giving him and understood what it meant. Well, looks like I am fighting after all, he said to Temari who had just came up the stairs. Temari nodded her head in agreement as they both heard Kankuro's name and Neji Hyuga being called by the proctor. Just win this quickly, we still have a lot to do, and Gaara is looking more bloodthirsty by the second. Kankuro jumped over the railing to land across from Neji. Neji looked different from the preliminary round. Instead of having a light beige jacket with a collar, he now had on a tight black sleeved shirt with the Hyuga symbol on the right shoulder. He also, instead of having just one arm bandaged, had both bandaged with the fingertips covered as well. He also had now 2 small pouches on both legs instead of one on his waist. His shorts stayed the same style but a bit longer to go beyond his knees. Kankuro gave Neji a confident stare, but inside he was busy thinking up ways to win this fight. He's a Hyuga, so close range is a no-go. Good thing I am a long-range expert. As long as I stay far away from him and let Karasu do all the work, I'll be fine. Genma, seeing that both contestants were ready, raised his hand and with a shout brought down his hand, beginning the fight. Everyone expected someone to run forward to initiate the fight, but were surprised when nothing happened. Both fighters just stood there looking at each other, waiting for one to be first to move. Neji, seeing that this was getting nowhere, sprung forward suddenly toward Kankuro. Kankuro was surprised when in seconds Neji was in front of him, hand drawn back to deliver a palm strike to his chest. The palm hit Kankuro's chest with a dull thud. Neji's eyes widened when instead of feeling softness of human flesh he was met with a hard and hollow feeling. Looking up he saw the face of a puppet. Quickly snapping out of his surprise, Neji jumped back, avoiding the 2 arms of the puppet that now had blades sticking out of their arms. Landing in a crouch, Neji watched as the bundle on the puppet's back unraveled to reveal the real Kankuro. He used a replacement technique to replace himself with the puppet. Interesting how he did it so fast and no hand signs. He really trained to do that. Either way, I need to get close to him to do any damage, but it does not look like the puppet will allow me to do that. Neji thought as he looked on as the puppet went to Kankuro's side defensively. Seeing no way around it, Neji muttered a quick Byakugan as the bloodline activated for the first time since the fight started. Neji yet again was the one to initiate the battle as he ran forward toward Kankuro. He was met in the middle by the puppet as he was forced to dodge to the side to avoid a poison-soaked blade. Recovering quickly, Neji was on the puppet in seconds, and with a few palm strikes the puppet was sent flying away as Neji yet again ran toward Kankuro. He was forced to dodge yet again as the ground under him exploded as the puppet landed where Neji was last at. With an annoyed look, Neji began to weave and step side to side as the puppet tried to land a hit. Neji's eyes widened when he saw the puppet's upper body start to spin rapidly. He jumped back quickly as multiple kunais were launched out from the puppet's body. Neji landed away from Kankuro as he growled under his breath, annoyed from the puppet's interruption whenever he went on the offensive. The puppet is not overly fast. I can see it clearly, but it's doing its job perfectly. It is keeping me from my opponent. He plans to wear me down and then get me. If he thinks he can win by just using long range, then he is sorely wrong. Flashback. Neji was sitting on the edge of his hospital bed. It was a day after his match with Naruto. He was thinking over the whole fight, looking at every detail, every mistake that he made throughout the fight. Even if he held no grudge against Naruto, he still felt sore about losing to Naruto. What could I have done to win? He mumbled before he was brought out of his thoughts by the door of his room opening. Looking at the door, Neji was surprised to see Naruto walk in and close the door behind him. Naruto, what are you doing here? Neji said in surprise. Naruto looked over at Neji before smiling and rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment before saying, well, I just thought that since I was the one to put you in the hospital, then I might as well come and see how you doing. Either way, I see you doing well. Neji answered Naruto a few seconds later, still in shock. I am doing fine, thank you for worrying. I am actually going to be released today. I was getting ready to leave now actually. Naruto looked relieved to hear that for some reason. That's good, then you would have no problem coming with me to see Hinata then, right? Neji, as soon as he heard that, looked at the floor with a look of shame on his face. I can't do that. She would not want me to see me. After all I have done to her, why would she ever want anything to do with me? Neji was cut off by a slap to the back of the head, making him stumble forward a bit. Naruto, seeing that he got Neji's attention, spoke calmly. She would never hate you. I already told you, did I not? She is not the kind of person to keep a grudge of hate anyone. Just go see her for yourself and you will see. Finishing his mini speech, Naruto turned around and beckoned Neji to follow him. Neji just dumbly followed Naruto out of his room. He actually felt a bit better. Hearing those words from Naruto, he was worrying too much. Neji actually smiled again, as he spoke out. You know that the only reason you wanted me to go with you was because you were too afraid to go yourself. He let out a laugh at the quick, shut up, from Naruto. As he walked with Naruto through the hospital, he thought back to his thought before Naruto interrupted him. Hey Naruto, what made you choose ninja wire as something to specialize in? Naruto was actually surprised by such a solemn question. Thinking for a bit, he said, the only answer he can give for now, I don't know actually. Neji face palmed at the answer before he shouted out, that's it. Naruto was taken back by the shout. Clearing out his ear, he quickly spoke lest he made Neji any more annoyed. Well, it's like I said, I don't really have the right words to describe it. The reason I choose it was originally to stand out. No one ever specialized in ninja wire. There are those who are good in them, but no one is a true master. I guess it eventually turned into wanting the freedom to do what I wanted. In the academy they teach us all the same way. I am not from a clan, so I was thought nothing else. I thought that if I was more like you clan kids, then I may actually make some friends and even some respect from the villagers. Seeing that he had lost Neji, Naruto just let out an annoyed growl. Look, it's just the opportunity to be different that really got me. I chose ninja wire simply because it's something I picked up myself, not someone else. Just find something that you enjoy, something that you chose on your own, not someone else, okay? Even though Naruto was rambling a bit toward the end, Neji understood the gist of it. Something that I want to do, Neji thought as he looked down at his palm. Hey, you coming or what? We are here, so you can't chicken out now. Naruto shouted as he stopped in front of a door. Looking to Naruto and then back to his hand, Neji made up his mind of what he wanted to do as he clenched his hand into a fist. Looking up, his eyes held a lot of determination, so much that even Naruto was surprised. Why do I feel like I just created a monster? Naruto thought with a sweat drop. End of flashback. Neji sighed as he let the memories fade away, refocusing on the fight. Kankuro, who was staring at Neji waiting for him to make a move, was surprised when he saw Neji slip into a fighting stance. What is that idiot thinking, taking a stance so far away from me? He mumbled lowly, feeling oddly uneasy at the sight. Hiashi, Hyuga and the Hyuga elders who were watching the fight going on were surprised at what Neji had done. That is not the Jukin stance. Hiashi, what is going on? "What is your nephew doing?" asked one of the elders. Hiashi did not say anything as he was too shocked. "I did not think it was ready yet. Did you really perfect it in such a short time, Neji?" Indeed, the stance was not that of the Jukin. Unlike the Jukin stance the one Neji took, the feet were more apart and were more firmly planted on the ground. The arms were in the same position, but instead of a flat palm forward, the hand was in a claw shape with the fingers pointing down. Suddenly Neji was moving, sliding the right foot forward and bringing the extended arm back parallel to his body, which was not sideways. Kankuro could suddenly see a soft distortion under the clawed hand. Sogekikan fist stance. Snapping the arm he brought back forward toward Kankuro, he shouted as he finished what he started to say. Line. Sogekikan fist equals sniping fist. As he snapped his hand forward, the air in front of the hand distorted. Kankuro, who had dropped his guard because of the distance he had with Neji, suddenly jumped to the side as his instincts screamed for him to move. The second Kankuro moved, he heard something hit the wall behind him. Looking back, he saw a perfect small circular hole in it. Looking back at Neji, he saw something that shocked him. Neji was back in the stance he was in before, but this time he saw what the distortion was. Floating below his hand were chakra strings that were coming out of his fingertips. Both Kankuro and the Hyuga watching all had the same thought. A Hyuga that learned something that is not considered tradition for them, it's impossible. Neji smirked as he felt the heated stares coming from the area that the Hyuga elders were sitting in. "You want to have a long-range battle? Then I will give you a long-range battle. Ready yourself, Sand Nin. I don't want this to end so quickly." Neji wasted no time in sending more attacks at Kankuro. On the other hand, Kankuro was snapped out of his thoughts when the puppet in front of him was blown away by Neji's attack and himself was forced to dodge a barrage of chakra strings. To think that someone would use chakra strings in such a way, I always thought that it was used only for puppets. Then why is a Konoha nin using it as a weapon? This makes no sense. Kankuro thought as he continued to dodge the incoming attack. He quickly noticed something important though. As another attack landed on his puppet that he used to guard with, he noticed chips of wood fall to the floor. Karasu can't take much more of this. Neji noticed Kankuro look away and smirked. Time to bring out the big guns. Quickly getting into the Sogekikan stance, he snapped his right hand out but quickly followed up by the left and then the right again. Sogekikan second stance burst. Kankuro had no chance to do anything as the three chakra strings struck the puppet, smashing through the puppet cleanly and hitting Kankuro in the shoulder in a triangle formation. Kankuro screamed out as the chakra strings dug into his shoulder. He quickly swiped a hand, thought he strings cutting them. Kankuro jumped back as he used his free hand to order Karasu to attack Neji. Neji saw the puppet coming, but was still recovering from using three chakra string shots at once. Damn it, still not perfect yet, he thought as he gathered his strength to jump back to avoid the puppet. He barely avoided the puppet but was shocked when he saw Kankuro snap one of his fingers up, making Karasu stop in its attack and fly toward the retreating Neji. As it was flying toward Neji, the puppet's jaws opened to reveal a large knife inside its head which it brought out to stab Neji with. Neji saw the attack coming but had no way to dodge and was not in the stance to do any move, seeing as he was still in the motion of jumping back. Should I have no choice? It may still be a prototype but it is battle ready. I just hope normal chakra is enough. This situation is familiar though. Hope it goes better this time. Landing on one foot, Neji began to spin his body and he let chakra out, forming a spectral blue dome. Kankuro saw this and smiled as he pulled his hand back, stopping the puppet just before it hit the ball. You made one fatal mistake. I know how your rotation works, Hyuga. And know that you used it, you will be a sitting as soon as you end it. You misread a puppet's agility and control. What Kankuro did not expect was a large blue wave to suddenly appear and engulf his puppet as it spun around with the spectral dome. Kankuro was even more shocked when he felt his chakra wires get cut off from his puppet. Neji stopped spinning and instantly the spectral dome and wave disappeared. He saw that the puppet was standing there not moving, slumped over a bit. It worked, but it's not over yet. I still need to get rid of that puppet. When Neji landed on 2 feet, he instantly sprung forward only to stop in front of the puppet. He instantly got into the Sogekikan stance, except this time the clawed hand was facing up. Shooting his hand forward, Neji struck the puppet as his clawed hands dug into the puppet. For a second nothing happened until a blue light started to emit from the puppet before the puppet exploded into wood shards that were sent everywhere. A piece of the chest that Neji had struck was still in his hands. The rest of the puppet was all over the field. As Neji finished his technique, he let out a shallow breath before saying, "Sogekikan third stance destruction." Kankuro stood there shocked and helpless, holding his bleeding arm. His puppet was in pieces all over the arena. He had nothing to work with anymore. With that thought, he slowly rose his good hand and said, "Proctor, I surrender." For a few seconds all that was heard was silence. Even the Genma was so surprised that he did not notice the surrender for a few seconds before he finally said, "We winner, Neji Hyuga." The audience was instantly knocked out of their surprise and roared out in applause at the first good fight they have seen, and what a fight it was. Neji looked around in surprise before he smirked as he realized he had won. He raised a hand weakly into the air before he fell forward, form chakra exhaustion. He was caught by Naruto before he could hit the ground. Naruto smirked at his friend before saying, "That was an awesome fight. Though you did have to copy me, man. Not cool, not cool." Even as he was saying this, Naruto could not stop smirking. Neji was awake enough to send Naruto a glare before darkness overtook him. Neji awoke to the strong smell of medicine. Opening his eyes, he saw that he was in a white room on a bed. This must be the arena's infirmary, Neji thought as he laid his head back down and closed his eyes from the headache that he just now noticed. He was given no time to rest though, as he heard a regal voice speak up beside him. "So you finally woke up, Neji. That's good. I was getting worried after you collapsed." Neji's eyes sprung open to find his uncle, Hiashi Hyuga, sitting near the wall of his room, as he stuttered out, "Lord Hiashi, what are you doing here? You should be watching the rest of the matches." "Wait, how long I have been unconscious?" Neji became more confused when he saw a small smile on Hiyashi's face before the Hyuga head spoke up. "Calm down, Neji. You weren't out for too long, a half hour at most. To answer your first question, I'm here to check on my nephew. The elders wanted me to come and punish you for defacing the Hyuga's name with your new Tai style, but that is not why I'm here." This just served to confuse Neji even more. Hiashi never showed outward kindness to him, or even anyone for that matter, but here he was going against the elders' orders and showing concern for a branch member like himself. Though Neji found himself relieved to find that his uncle was not like the elders. "Thank you for your concern, Hiashi-sama, but you should get back to the elders before they get annoyed. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I'm fine, I promise you," Neji said in a calm voice. Hiashi sighed, seeing that Neji was trying to act respectful. "Neji, what if I told you that I knew that you were creating your own style, and even improving the techniques of the Hyuga?" Neji's head shot up so fast you would think that his neck snapped. With a panicked look on his face, Neji stuttered out, "Why, you knew?" Hiashi just waved his hand out in a shushing manner. "Don't worry, I'm not mad. As I said before, I am not here to punish you. I'm actually here to praise you. Taking the Jukin and molding it to your own view is not something just anyone can do, plus the courage to go against the traditions of the Hyuga was immense. I actually should be thanking you and that Uzumaki for showing me humility that I had forgotten since my wife died." Neji's eyes were wide from what the Hyuga head had said. "There is nothing to thank me for. I understand Naruto because I have much to thank him myself, but I deserve no thanks." Neji was silenced by a raised hand from Hiashi. "You know it was hard trying to keep the fact that you were creating your own style, what with your loudmouth sensei screaming about it. But it did help that our own resident spy master Jiraiya was with you. He was actually the one to tell me, and open my eyes to my mistakes." Flashback 1 week before the Chunin finals. Jiraiya could be found standing in the shade of a large tree on the edge of a training ground. In the middle of the training ground you could find Neji and Lee sparring. But unlike normal, Neji was using a different Tai style and he was having trouble keeping up with Lee. Gay stood a few feet away from the sparring boys watching intently. "Neji, you got to be faster in switching styles. As I said before, the idea you had for your style was only half thought through. You have to get used to fighting up close with the chakra strings. Hard piercing strings are fine for long range. But you have to be flexible with them when up close. Now go and try again. Lee, get ready. Guy said sternly with a shout at the end. Neji just nodded his head as he swirled around on his right leg, dodging an attack from Lee. Lee was not done though, as he quickly brought an elbow forward intending to hit Neji's face. Neji saw the elbow coming and shot his left hand out, catching Lee's elbow in a clawed grip. He then brought up his right arm, which had already created chakra strings, and swiped his hand in a circular motion, trying to wrap the strings around Lee's arm. Lee simply under the attack and swept Neji's legs out from under him, following up with a straight punch to Neji's stomach, sending Neji back a few feet, crashing into the ground. Guy saw this and just said, "Neji, get up and try again. You need to get used to fighting close combat with the Sogekikan." Jiraiya watched on as Neji got up, panting a bit, before running at Lee again. After a few seconds he said out loud, to no one in particular, "You know your nephew is very talented, to create his own style at such a young age. Even if he has Guy as his sensei, it still must have been very tough. Still, I never expected you to actually come." As the word left his mouth, a figure crept out from the shadows of the tree to stop next to Jiraiya and simply stare out into the clearing. Jiraiya turned his head to look at the current head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi Hyuga. Hiashi, not looking away from the clearing or the sparring boys, said in a monotone voice, "You just interested me when you said that Neji was creating something amazing. But from what I see, it is barely even half done. There are many holes in his guard and in the attack stances. If this is what you call amazing, then I have nothing more to look at." Jiraiya shook his head, expecting the answer. "That's just the answer I expected from the infamous Hyuga head. Now that we got that out of the way, let me hear what Hiashi Hyuga, uncle to Neji Hyuga, has to say." Hiashi was quiet for a few seconds but then answered in a more meaningful voice. "It really is amazing, and I can't believe that my own nephew has more courage than I do, or even more than most of the clan has combined. It really is crude but has an underlying potential on a scale that I cannot even imagine. But how? You said it yourself. How is it possible for a genin to create something as great as this?" Jiraiya smirked at Hiashi's answer, but was surprised at the same time at the emotion in the Hyuga's voice. "You know, Minato once said that the Hyuga are wasting their time. Only using a Tai style that they know and not even trying to learn anything else, and to make matters worse, they even forbid anyone from trying to tamper with their prized Jukin." Hiashi was honestly god-smacked at the Sanin's words. If anyone from the clan heard any of that, it would be enough for a death penalty. Jiraiya continued what he was saying after giving Hiashi time to think. "As I said, Minato had first-hand experience with the Hyuga's Jukin, what with you being his teammate, and as such was able to study it quite well. He even once compared the Hyuga's rotation to his own Rasengan." Now Hiashi was surprised. "What do you mean? Minato's Rasengan was a work of art. I respect the rotation, but it stands no chance against the Rasengan." Jiraiya just shook his head before speaking. "You misunderstood. He did not compare them in terms of power but because of one fact." Not finishing his sentence, Jiraiya simply pointed out into the clearing. Hiashi, not understanding, looked out into the clearing, only to fall flat on his from seeing Neji use the rotation, except this one had a blue wave spinning around with the rotation chakra. Hiashi did not even react when Jiraiya finished his earlier sentence. "You see, Minato compared the two because of their shared trait of having infinite possibilities of change." Flashback end. Neji was surprised to say the least that not only had Jiraiya said those kind of things but his uncle as well. "So you see, that is why I chose to believe in you and keep your secret safe until you were ready to reveal it. Though I got to say I am surprised that you were able to get it battle ready in only a month. I am proud of you, Neji," Hiashi said in a happy voice. Neji did not know what to say, so he said nothing and just nodded his head with a smile on his face. Hiashi, seeing the gesture, got up and went to the door but stopped before exiting. "Oh, and your friend Naruto's fight is up next, so get your strength up and you may be up in time to see it." Arena floor. Genma watched as a team cleared up the arena floor of wood debris from the destroyed puppet from the last match. Inside he was happy that finally there was a good match, following the first two. Seeing the cleanup team leave the arena floor, Genma cleared his throat and shouted out to get everyone's attention. Okay, now that the cleanup has been finished, the finals can continue. Would Gaara of the Sand and Naruto Uzumaki come out for the fourth round? In the next instant, Gaara appeared in front of Genma in a swirl of sand. As he appeared, Genma could instantly see the bloodthirsty look on his face. This kid is seriously out for blood. Uzumaki better be careful not to get killed by him. I actually like him, Genma thought. Genma was forced out of his thoughts when Naruto landed across from Gaara in a crouch, his dull orange cloak picking up all around him. Naruto looked different from the preliminary rounds. Since he revealed himself in the second round, he thought a change in his outfit was in order. He was never going to get rid of the color orange. Who was he if he had no orange? As such, he had on a dull orange cloak that covered his entire body. Underneath the cloak he had on a half black half sunrise orange shirt with an orange vest with black lines running down center. His pants were simple baggy orange pants with black lines running down the sides. His forearms were covered in black wires while the rest of the arms were covered in orange wires, with the elbows not covered so that he can move his arms. Naruto stood up straight and let his cloak fall back around him, covering his completely. He looked over at Gaara only to see a bloodthirsty look on his face. Hey, you don't even try to hide your bloodlust, do you? Naruto said calmly to Gaara. Naruto's statement did not even affect Gaara as he slowly spoke out. You are strong, Uzumaki. Mother wants your blood, and you will die to prove my existence. But first I have to make something clear to me. You are like me, we are both monsters made by our village, hated by our village. I can clearly see that, but what I don't understand is how you can smile and live without paying them back for the hate. Gaara said with unrestrained bloodlust. Naruto for his part looked like he was not paying attention at all, what with picking his ear while Gaara was talking. But once Gaara started to growl with anger, he spoke. That's what you wanted to ask. I thought you would ask something that was not obvious. But to answer you anyway, it's simple. What does their hate for me have to do with, well, me? They can hate me all they want and I can't give any more or less shits about their hate. Gaara looked honestly shocked by this as some of his bloodlust disappeared in his shock. But if you don't care about their hate, don't retaliate, don't do anything, how do you prove that you actually exist? How do you prove your own existence to everyone? Gaara said. Naruto at the statement wanted to facepalm himself. I already told you why I don't do any of that. I don't have to prove my existence because I know that there are those who acknowledge me existence, those who keep me grounded and sane, those who actually care about me. Naruto looked up at the cage booth a bit at the end of his statement, specifically at the third Hokage. Gaara looked absolutely livid at Naruto's statement. On the other hand, you mean to tell me that love is what proves your existence? You are wrong. Only thing that can prove that you live is blood. Now give mother your blood. Gaara shouted out as he commanded a wave or sand to break out of his gourd and fly toward Naruto. Genma took up a look of panic as he shouted out, hey, I did not even start this match, stop or. Genma was cut off though as the sand reached Naruto quickly and crushed him to the floor. Genma would have been horrified had it not been for the voice behind him say. Don't worry so much, Proctor, we should start this match off with a bang. As the voice finished, the sand that crushed Naruto exploded, sending pieces of sand everywhere. After the explosion, in its place was a burnt and tattered cloak. Naruto was standing behind Genma leaning on his back. Genma would have shown relief had he not been on the job right now. Seeing as both of you are ready, let the match begin. As Genma started the match, he was able to get away just in time to see wisps of sand rise from Gaara's gourd. Gaara raised him hand ordering the wisps of sand to form sand shurikens and fly toward Naruto. Naruto smirked as he easily weaved his way through the barrage of sand shurikens. Gaara let out a growl of annoyance and raised both of his hands ordering a large amount of sand to come out of his gourd and fly toward Naruto. Naruto's smirk increased in size if possible as he started to what can be best described as dancing around the sand that came flying his way, all of the strands of sand crashing around him with none hitting him. Gaara's annoyance grew as veins started to show off his face. Letting out a feral growl, he stomped his foot on the ground and raised his hands and ordered the sand that was under Naruto's feet to rise up. Naruto's smirk disappeared as he was lifted into the air. He watched as Gaara waved his hands down. Looking up, he saw strands of sand coming down. "Oh well, I'm trapped." "Not," Naruto said as he tugged on an invisible wire, making him fly to the side off of the lifted sand and away from the strands of sand which crashed into his previous location. A few seconds later, the sand exploded just like at the beginning of the match. Naruto landed easily a few feet away from Gaara, his smirk from before back on his face. "That could have been dangerous, you know. Has anyone ever taught you manners?" Something snapped inside Gaara's mind as all he could think of was killing the blonde in front of him, not the invasion plan, not his siblings, not even his own father up in the cage booth. No, the only thing in his mind was brutally killing the blonde that was making a mockery of his existence. He shouted out, which to most sounded like a mad animal's howl, as wisps of sand started to swirl around him. Naruto just looked on with interest. "Well, what do we have here? Have I made you mad?" Little Tanuki. Up in the audience stands. All of the rookie 9 were watching the match go on, excluding those who were participating. They were impressed at the ease Naruto showed in the fight. Even the teachers who had seen Gaara's fight in the preliminaries were impressed. Kurenai was the first one to speak up. Did anyone know that Naruto was this strong? He may have showed off some skill at the preliminaries, but still. Guy, the Sand Kid, was the one to beat Lee, but Naruto shows no trouble in this fight. Why do you think that is? Guy looked thoughtful for a second and was about to answer but was beat to the punch by a voice behind the senseis. "It's simple. Naruto is just stronger than most of your kids." The senseis looked back to see Jiraiya leaning on a pillar with a bag of popcorn. "Jiraiya, I did not know you were back. When did you get back?" asked Asuma with a surprised look. Jiraiya just waved his hands as he said, "About a month ago, give or take a few days." This time it was Kurenai who spoke up. "Why do you say that Naruto is the strongest of our group?" Jiraiya would have answered but was interrupted by Guy. "It's because he was the one who taught Naruto in the month break. Like I was going to say before Jiraiya showed up was that Naruto actually helped Neji create his style. He would come over like once a week and help him out. In that time I was able to see Naruto had a lot more to show than he lets on. For example, he already has this fight in the bag." The rest of the senseis looked confused at this. "What do you mean, Guy? This fight just started?" asked Asuma, not believing what Guy was saying. Guy just shook his head. "You are making the same mistake I made back in preliminaries." Kakashi said that Naruto had the win, but I did not believe him. During the time I was able to study Naruto, I learned one thing that Naruto has over everyone else. Kurenai was about to ask what it was but was stopped by Jiraiya speaking up. "Just look out into the field. You should be able to at least see the setup for Naruto's win." The senseis looked out and watched Naruto easily dodge all of Gaara's sand attacks, with some of them blowing up after he had dodged. This confused them. Why would some blow up? It's not like that would stop the sand. Asuma was the first to see small flashes in the sand. He also noticed that the orange on Naruto's upper arm was slowly disappearing. Finally, the cigarette that he had been smoking fell out of his mouth at what Guy said next. "As you can see, what I learned about Naruto was that in battle, he is a genius. I am daring enough to say he is smarter than Shikamaru in battle. Also, he learned a lot more from us than we did from him." Down in the arena, Naruto dodged another string of sand that tried to grab him, which shortly later exploded, sending sand everywhere. Looking down at his arm, Naruto saw that he was almost out of orange wire. "Good, then I'm almost done setting up. Better wrap up this dance before he actually gets me." As Naruto landed, he saw that Gaara was panting a bit with his shoulders slumped, either from exhaustion of something else he did not know. He got his answer when Gaara straightened out and slammed both of his feet on the ground, sending out a pulse of chakra. Slowly the ground underneath him started to turn to sand. Naruto saw this and started to sweat a bit. Okay, that was definitely not in his bio that I got from Jiraiya. Maybe I made him a little too mad. Naruto mumbled as he watched the ground turn to sand around Gaara. It stopped when Gaara hunched down holding his head. All that he was able to pick up from Gaara was mumblings about, "No mother, not now," and, "Soon you will have his blood." Gaara looked up with a face that was half crazed and half in pain as he threw up his hands, ordering a huge wave of sand to rise up and head toward Naruto with surprising speed. Naruto actually looked a bit panicked as he shouted. Okay, this was definitely not in his file. Before picking up one foot and slamming it down on the ground twice before he disappeared from his previous location. Appearing next to the wall of the arena, Naruto let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Looking toward Gaara, Naruto decided it was time to start his plan before Gaara brought out anything else he did not know. Tapping one of his feet twice, he disappeared again, appearing in front of Gaara before disappearing again, dodging a strand of sand that automatically picked up when it felt danger next to Gaara. Naruto appeared again, this time to the side of Gaara before disappearing again. He did this a few more times, appearing and disappearing all around Gaara. Gaara for his part was confused. How was this blonde doing the same this as the green-clad one from before? It made him angry just thinking about him. Gaara had no time to think as he suddenly felt tightness around his limbs. He could not move anymore. Looking down, he saw wires wrapped around his limbs, keeping him in place. He suddenly looked up when his instincts told him to look up, to find Naruto up in the air in the motion of throwing a kunai with a tag attached to it. His eyes widened as he saw the kunai come closer. I can't die like this, and I will not let my existence be killed. As this left his lips, sand exploded around him, engulfing Gaara and making a good-sized sand ball around Gaara. The kunai hit the sand harmlessly as Naruto landed in front of the sand dome. Naruto smirked as he landed, awaiting this moment. The next thing he did was bend down and slam his hands onto the ground. A second later, multiple orange wires sprung out from under the sand all over the arena and came and wrapped around the dome of sand. With that done, Naruto stood up with two wire ends in one hand. Next, he reached into one of the pouches on his leg and took out a medium-sized ball that fit in his hand. Naruto then threw the ball at the dome of sand and with a quick hand sign the kunai, which can now be seen to be a silver color, glowed a bit as the ball exploded into multiple gray wires before tightly wrapping around the sand dome. With all the preparations done, Naruto jumped back, landing a bit away from the sand dome, which now looked like a cocoon of wires. As he landed, he quickly put his hands into a seal that he was known for. A huge puff of smoke appeared in front of him. When it cleared, it showed a wall of clones in front of him. With a quick check over everything, Naruto smirked as he said, "Well, it's show time." He sent a pulse of chakra through the orange wires as he pulled on the wires with as much strength he had. Jiraiya, who had seen what Naruto was doing, suddenly widened his eyes before he shouted, "Everyone brace yourselves." Now, people looked confused right before the whole arena went up in flames. Anyone who could still see past the blinding light could see a huge pillar of fire coming from the cocoon sand dome. The heat was intense even from the stands, but for Naruto he was sweating bullets. Even with the distance between himself and the pillar of fire and the wall of clones was not enough to protect him from the heat. Suddenly, though, he started to get the memories of his popping clones. He expected this, but the thing that was wrong was how some were dying. Some were dying due to being impaled by a strand of sand. Shit, I thought that he would stay inside his dome, but instead he is blasting through my clones like they are nothing. Come on, hurry up and dry up already, you little tanuki. Naruto grunted out as he was trying to keep the flames vented upwards away from the audience. Little by little the wall of clones were coming down as Gaara's sand spear was getting closer to the struggling Naruto. Suddenly the arena was filled with the primal scream of a raging animal. It was so loud that it shook the stands people were sitting on. Just as suddenly as the scream started, it ended along with the flames. It was all quiet for almost a full 5 minutes as everyone held their breaths as the smoke and steam cleared from all over the arena. Genma, who was able to get inside the stands just in time before the fire started, was shocked speechless from what he had witnessed. Finally, the smoke cleared enough for everyone to see the result of the fight. Naruto was on the floor on his back staring forward at a strand of glass which was millimeters away from impaling him in the face, and it was close enough to draw a bit of blood. What shocked people even more was that the glass strand was connected to a huge circular dome of clear glass with Gaara inside, a look of absolute pain and anger, frozen in the motion of screaming. Finally coming out of his shock, Genma was about to shout out the winner but was stopped as white feathers started to drop down as most of the audience started to fall asleep. The ones that did not were either ninjas that were able to sense and break the genjutsu or enemy ninja who already knew of the plan. An invasion of Konoha had started. Naruto felt the feathers falling all around the stadium, putting most of its occupants to sleep, as well as the effect of the genjutsu that came with it. But the adrenaline from the previous fight kept him awake until the genjutsu was stopped. Even after the genjutsu was stopped, Naruto felt his limbs lock up as a pair of sound nin jumped to the arena floor and ran straight at Naruto, kunai out. Within a second the sound nin were on Naruto, ready to take his life away, had it not been for the sudden smoke plume appearing in between Naruto and the sound nin. Kakashi knew that he and his student were late, but even still he hoped that his student would get a chance to fight or else he would never hear the end of it from Sasuke. What he was not expecting to happen when he shunshined to the arena floor was to automatically have to react by grabbing the two ninjas' arms and tossing them to either side of him. Letting the smoke dissipate, Kakashi took a look around, noticing the growing number of fights breaking out in the audience and specifically the menacing purple barrier that sat on top of the cage booth. Quick to realize what was going on, he turned to his two students, Naruto, who had finally gotten over his adrenaline-induced paralysis, and a confused Sasuke. Naruto, good to see you are alright. It seems we were late and missed a lot, Kakashi said in a joking manner, though his eyes were alert and ready to act. Had it not been for the invading ninja, Naruto would have attacked his sensei for being so laid back and uncaring, but considering the situation they were in, he stopped himself, allowing only a glare to go through. Sasuke was going to say something until he was cut off by Kakashi. Jokes aside though, seeing as we are being attacked we have to act as such. I want you two to go find the other genin. They are most likely to be in the audience or on their way to the shelters. In times of attack on our home it is normal to send genin to protect the shelters while higher level ninja faces off with the invaders. Got it, you two. Sasuke was yet again going to speak but was cut off by Kakashi vanishing from where he stood only to reappear behind his students, kunai lodged in the necks of two sand nin who had tried to sneak up behind the genin. Ripping his kunai from the dead sand nin, Kakashi gave a quick good luck before disappearing again, likely to go help out the other jonin in fighting the invaders. Naruto was the first to move, moving toward the cage booth instead of the exits. Sasuke was quick to catch up and stop Naruto. Dobi, what are you doing? We were told to go toward the shelters, which are the other direction. Naruto spared Sasuke a glance before talking. I know what he said, but something is giving me a bad feeling about that barrier. I feel like something bad is going to happen in there if I'm not present. Sasuke was about to respond but was again interrupted by Naruto. I know what you're thinking. This is not just a gut feeling though. It's a feeling I get whenever someone is going to die. I have never been wrong before whenever I've had this feeling. If the old man is in there, then I got to go. Sasuke was left in shock that Naruto would go so far for just a feeling. But even still he was quick to run after Naruto. In the back of his mind he agreed with Naruto on the bad feeling he was getting. Sasuke landed on the roof above the cage booth next to a crouched Naruto, looking at the purple barrier. After a few seconds Naruto suddenly brought out a kunai and threw it at the barrier. Both teens watched the kunai hit the barrier and disintegrate upon impact. Sasuke heard Naruto mutter something about the barrier being chakra-based, before he finally said, "So Dobi, how do you plan on getting inside the barrier?" Naruto looked at Sasuke for a second, looking thoughtful, before he finally spoke. You learned the Chidori from Kakashi, right? Sasuke looked surprised that Naruto would know his secret technique. He was planning to keep it a secret for the exams, but seeing as the exams were interrupted, he just nodded. Naruto almost looked pleased by this. All right, good, then you will help me get into the barrier. Sasuke was quick to answer, why should I help you? What can you possibly do to help the Hokage anyway? You're just a dobi. Sasuke, at the time that Naruto fought Neji, was still recovering from his treatment for the cursed seal. As such, he did not witness Naruto's show of power. He was also whisked away by Kakashi before he could learn about it. He had heard rumors about what Naruto had done, but he chose to not believe them, for the time being. Naruto quickly got annoyed seeing as they were wasting time arguing. This is not the time for you to be acting all high and mighty. Something could be happening to the old man and you are keeping me from helping him. Just trust me. Just once in your life. Sasuke looked just as annoyed but strangely conflicted. And why should I trust you? The last time I trusted someone, they ended up killing all of my family and taking everything that I know away. Naruto expected Sasuke to say something like this. He even expected to argue with Sasuke just to get him to agree with his plan. But what he did not expect was to find a conflicted Sasuke. That's something that you don't find every day. It almost seems as though he is trying to force his usual act, like what I was doing before. No, not just force it, he is trying to confirm something. But what? What happened to you on your training trip? That can wait for later though. I need to get to the old man as such time to bring out the big guns, Naruto thought with an inner smirk, knowing that Sasuke would never refuse what he had to offer. Sasuke was getting anxious, waiting for Naruto's answer. Finally, he got the answer, but not the one he was expecting. Okay, listen head, just this once, trust me. I know you still think that I am the same old dobi that you know, but I am not. But if you still think that, then I want to make you an offer. You help me without questioning me. Help me get inside the barrier and save the old man, then I promise that I will teach you the strongest technique that I have. I know that you heard the rumors about me, and I know that you are interested. So please just this once trust me, I will not let you or the old man die, I make that promise and I always keep my promises. Finishing his mini speech, Naruto clapped his hands together as a half-assed pleading sign, showing that he was desperate to a degree. To say that Sasuke's mouth was not wide open at this point would be to lie. But Naruto's lengthy and surprisingly meaningful speech were not the only reason. The last sentence of Naruto's speech triggered a memory from his time training with Kakashi. Flashback. Thousands of chirping birds rang throughout the rocky fields as Sasuke rushed forward, impaling a boulder with his Chidori. Sasuke pulled back his hand before collapsing to his knees in exhaustion. He looked up to see that the hole he made was about the same size as the first Chidori he had done before. Looks like you are able to do 2 before you are done, give yourself a day to recover. Your daily limit is at 2, much better than I expected. It also looks like we are done a week early, said Kakashi, who was leaning on another boulder watching Sasuke perform the Chidori. Sasuke shook off his exhaustion and got up to his feet with a grunt as an answer to Kakashi. Kakashi could see the restrained anger that Sasuke tried to hide under his usual brooding face. Looks like he is not satisfied with his limit, or is it that he is angry at himself? I really should try to get rid of some of that anger, but how? I have tried to enforce the ideals of teamwork on him, but I can tell he just shrugs it off most of the time. He is too engrossed in his revenge plotting. Kakashi thought for a few more moments before an idea struck him. If Sasuke does not understand the basic meaning of teamwork, and what I told him on the day they became genin, then maybe he will understand the full story. Kakashi finished thinking with a sad smile, thinking back to the one who originally taught him about teamwork. Sasuke, come here, I may have one more thing to teach you, but first I have to tell you something I started a long time ago. But I think it's time you learned the full story. Sasuke was snapped out of his daze, and tiredly walked over to Kakashi and sat down in front of the man. It was quiet for a minute, mostly due to Kakashi trying to think up of a way to start the conversation. Looking down at Sasuke and noticing him getting annoyed, Kakashi sighed before talking. Do you remember what I told you and the rest of Team 7 the day you guys officially became genin? Sasuke looked honestly surprised that the thing that Kakashi wants to talk about is just a simple quote that he was told a long time ago. In your words, in the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash, that's true, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash, Sasuke said almost mechanically. Kakashi winced at the tone of voice, while thinking that his plan better work before saying, yes, thank you for being a copy machine. Now that I know that you at least remember what I told you, what I want to talk to you about is the meaning behind that sentence, or more specifically the history behind it and eventually its full form. Sasuke looked on waiting for Kakashi to talk, not really caring about what he was going to say. Seeing no response from Sasuke, Kakashi let out another sigh before starting the story of his childhood. He told Sasuke in detail how his dad, due to unfortunate circumstances, chose to save his teammates instead of finishing his mission, earning him large amount of scorn, eventually leading him to commit suicide because of the scorn from most of the village, even those he chose to save. Kakashi told Sasuke about how because of his father's death, he chose to follow the rules to death. That was until the mission to Kanobi Bridge with his old team, Obito Uchiha and Rin Nohara. At that point, Sasuke chose to speak up. This is also informative, but what does any of this backstory have to do with what you told us? More importantly, what does it have to do with me? His voice did not hold anger, just honest confusion. Kakashi took that as a good sign before replying. Whether this information does any good to you is up to you. I can't control what you do with this information, I just hope that you get something good out of hearing me out. Sasuke opened, then soon closed his mouth, deciding to at least hear out Kakashi. Not much harm in hearing him out, he did say he will teach me something else afterwards. Seeing that he had Sasuke's attention, once again Kakashi started to talk. This time he told Sasuke about his and Obito's relationship as well as the way Obito acted and how much it annoyed him back then. Kakashi told Sasuke about the mission to destroy Kanobi Bridge, his first test of Chidori and eventually the attack and kidnapping of Rin. Here he stressed the difference between Obito and his younger self. He had wanted to leave Rin and go finish the mission. His thinking was that the enemy Nin wanted information out of Rin, as such they would not hurt her. Obito on the other hand had wanted to drop the mission without hesitation and go rescue Rin. His thinking was that above all a comrade was someone special, even more important than some mission. Kakashi paused here to gather his thoughts, seeing as he was diving into a past that he does not go into often, for obvious reasons. After a minute of silence, Kakashi was surprised when it was Sasuke who spoke up in a small voice. What did you choose? That sentence alone was enough to knock Kakashi back to earth. I chose the mission still. Nothing back then would have been able to change my mind, all except for Obito. It's funny actually, Obito is usually straightforward and dense, but at that moment that I chose to follow the mission, he almost seemed to know a lot more than he should. It's at this point that I got the saying this I live by. Kakashi could hear Sasuke say lowly, in the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash, that's true, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Kakashi would have smiled had it not been for the stuff they were talking about. Sasuke may actually be understanding the true meaning behind the saying just. Well, time to put the last nail into the coffin, so to speak, Kakashi thought before he said in a bittersweet tone. When I chose the mission, Obito did not try to convince me otherwise, instead he said something that I will always remember. Those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. If I'm going to be called trash either way, I'd rather break the rules. And if that somehow makes me anything less than a real shinobi, then I'll crush all of the so-called, real, shinobi. Kakashi looked down at Sasuke to see his eyes slowly open wide and multiple emotions pass by, most Kakashi was not able to catch. He gave Sasuke a few seconds before he finished his tale by telling Sasuke about how he had changed his mind, helping Obito in rescuing Rin, and eventually Obito giving his life to save Kakashi, at the same time giving Kakashi his Sharingan eye. All throughout the ending of Kakashi's story, Sasuke was not paying much attention, he was lost in his thoughts. Ever since he had lost his family, he thought of nothing but getting revenge against his brother. He did not know why Kakashi's story was hitting so many chords within him, why did he care so much for his past? Or even for the words spoken by a dead Uchiha. After ending his story, Kakashi let Sasuke think about everything he had said, hoping that he had gotten through the Uchiha's revenge-driven shell. Kakashi took the few minutes that Sasuke took to collect himself as a good sign, right before becoming depressed when Sasuke spoke up for the first time about the training he had mentioned before. With the hope that he had at least made a crack into the Uchiha's shell. Kakashi spoke up for the first time since the silence fell upon them. Yes, I did mention something like that. What I had in mind is a way to unlock your fully matured Sharingan early, preferably before the month ends, because I got something that I want to teach you that requires the fully matured Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes widened at the prospect of unlock the full Sharingan, though he did hide a wince at the thought of what lies beyond the fully matured Sharingan. Sasuke shook the thoughts out of his head before simply saying, "How?" Kakashi was quick to answer. For an Uchiha, the usual way to train up a Sharingan is to train long and hard. But there are ways to skip those long steps, such as extreme mental stress. Usually I would not ever use this method, especially on you, seeing as what you had to go through because of Itachi. This time Kakashi was able to catch the slight wince from Sasuke at the mention of Itachi, as well as the tightening of his fists. Yeah. Well, as I was saying. Things have changed, with Orochimaru after you and the cursed seal on your neck. The Hokage has asked me to help you unlock the full Sharingan before the third exam. As such, he had authorized me to use a genjutsu that Kurenai perfected for interrogations. This genjutsu is different for everyone, but its main purpose is to cause serious mental stress with no actual physical pain or mental scarring as a result. Kakashi noticed that Sasuke was about to interrupt, so he quickly held up his hand, stopping Sasuke. Before you interrupt me and say, "Just do it," I have to warn you that I don't know what you will see. You have to be dead serious about this. Once I begin, you will not be able to go back until the genjutsu wears off. It may not scar or harm you, but can you still handle whatever it throws at you? Sasuke looked like he was about to answer with his usual arrogant answer, but surprisingly he stopped and seemed to actually think before he said anything. Kakashi looked relatively happy that he did not just say whatever he wanted. In Sasuke's mind, he was going over the pros and cons of undergoing the genjutsu. Of course, there were the pros of a chance to unlock the full Sharingan, but a small voice in the back of his mind reminded him that the genjutsu resembled the one Itachi used on him so many years ago. Another louder voice that usually held a lot more sway in Sasuke's decision screamed for him to undergo the genjutsu just because he was an Uchiha. There was nothing he could not take. But at the moment the voice seemed so weak. Finally, after a few minutes, Sasuke looked up at Kakashi with a confident expression and said, "Do it. I'm sure that anything that the genjutsu shows me cannot be any worse than what he did years ago." Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the teen's reasoning. It was sound knowing that not much can be worse than seeing your family murdered, but also at the same time troubling that he used such reasoning. But the teen had made his choice. As his sensei, he would not question his choice. As such, Kakashi started to go through many hand signs at a fast pace. As Sasuke watched Kakashi go through the hand signs, he slowly felt himself get heavy and the world around him started to slow down. It got so bad that the only thing that Sasuke could concentrate on was Kakashi's moving hands. Eventually Kakashi stopped on a final hand sign before putting his hands in a circular formation, with all fingers connecting with another on the other hand. He held his hands out a bit at eye level for Sasuke. "Refocused demonic illusion. Pandora's box," Kakashi said evenly, finishing the genjutsu. Sasuke did not even hear the name of the jutsu. All he can focus on were Kakashi's hands and the growing inky darkness forming in the middle of his hands. Just as suddenly as the darkness appeared in Kakashi's hands, it exploded out, completely covering Sasuke's vision. Of course Kakashi saw none of this since he had long ago activated the genjutsu. Now he just had to wait for Sasuke to come out of the illusion. Inside the illusion, Sasuke saw nothing but darkness for a few seconds until it slowly drained from his view, allowing him to see again. When he finally was able to see, he automatically wished he could not. Around him were multiple bodies. He seemed to be in a main street of sorts that looked so familiar, though for the life of him Sasuke could not remember where he was. All of a sudden he looked down only to widen his eyes in shock. He would have shouted out in shock as well, but he found that he could not control his own body. Under his crouched form was a dead body with a tanto sticking out of his back. As Sasuke slowly studied the body, he started to figure out where he was. The man under him was a ninja, that he can tell, but he could also clearly see the famous Uchiha fan on his shoulder. Slowly he began to realize where and even when he was. This was the main street of the Uchiha complex. But even worse, this was the night the Uchiha massacre had occurred. Sasuke tried to move away from the body but soon remembered that he could not control his body. He did not have to worry about that for long as his body started to move on its own, though Sasuke was not relieved in the slightest, seeing as soon as he started to move he found himself behind another Uchiha, tanto already stuck in the man's back. No, no, please no. Sasuke whispered, though his body's mouth did not move. His body continued to move beyond the whispered pleas of Sasuke. As his body passed by a glass window, Sasuke clearly saw why he had no control of his body. Seeing as his body was not even his, but that of Itachi Uchiha. Revelation dawned upon Sasuke as he realized that he was being forced to watch firsthand the massacre of his family by Itachi's hands. No, 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 stop. Sasuke at the end was screaming as with every no, Itachi's body cut down another Uchiha. This went on for what seemed like hours, days, weeks, months, even years, as Sasuke was forced to watch as Itachi killed countless amounts of Uchihas in cold blood. Eventually he could not even scream as Itachi finally reached his parents. Sasuke could only watch as Itachi brought up his tanto before bringing it down upon his parents. The world faded to black before the blade could sink into their skin. When he could see again, Sasuke was quick to check that indeed he had his body back, but still could not move. He looked up to notice two beams of light flashing onto the ground in two different places, making circles of light in the darkness. In one circle sat the forms of his parents as well as three more shadowy figures. In the other stood a blood-soaked Itachi, face emotionless as usual. Sasuke's eyes darted back and forth between Itachi and the other circle before he heard Itachi start to speak. Come, foolish brother. Come here so you can have your revenge. Let our parents die with all of your bonds. They will do you no good. I told you on that night, only with anger can you reach me and cut me down. Now foolish brother chooses, and choose wisely. With every word that Itachi spoke, Sasuke felt like he was being torn in two. Why was he hesitating? His parents are dead already, his family is dead already. Why was he hesitating in choosing to get his revenge? You're an idiot. What you want in your life is right there. Remember the Uchiha pride, the pride your brother trampled on. Now quit this foolish hesitating and go and get our revenge, or do you want to stay the foolish brother forever? An arrogant and loud voice rang out in his head. Sasuke's eyes drooped a bit before he slowly started to move toward Itachi. As he moved, the light shining on his parents slowly started to dim, as his parents faded away, leaving the shadowy figures. After a few steps, a small insignificant voice rang out quietly in the back of his head. Look over to where your parents were, again. The voice was so small and weak in Sasuke's opinion, but for some reason he turned his head to look toward where his parents had been. As soon as his eyes landed on the spot, Sasuke stopped in his track to stare. There had been shadowy figures now sat his team, all with their heads down, hair blocking their faces. The voice seemed louder but still held its quiet and calm sound. Your choice, that you are about to make, are you ready to face the consequences of what you choose in this situation now? Are you going to be blinded yet again? You have blinded yourself enough all your life with these worthless bonds. Let it all go, go to your fate, get revenge, get power, become your true self. The arrogant voice suddenly came back, but as it went on it became less and less like the arrogant and loud voice it was. It became more calm than angry and more entangling. Hee, I am really excited to see how you all interrupt that, and yes, there is a meaning to the words that I use, they are not just random words. Sasuke stood for what seemed like ages before he finally seemed like he would start to move toward Itachi. But the calm and quiet voice spoke up one last time, getting dimmer and dimmer as it went on. It's your choice, to let go, or to hold on with dear life. Either way you will have to deal with the fact that they are dead. You know the difference, right? Remember, those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. At this point the voice faded away but not into nothingness. Sasuke felt almost compelled to continue what the voice started. If I'm going to be called trash either way, I'd rather break the rules. And if that somehow makes me anything less than a real shinobi, then I'll crush all of the so-called real shinobi. After finishing that sentence, Sasuke felt like a huge weight was lifted from his shoulders. The calm voice was not here to persuade him to do anything, it was here to remind Sasuke of what he wanted to be. You are right, I want to become my true self. But not this way. I have decided, brother. With those words spoken, Sasuke found it easily to turn around and walk toward his team, whose faces he could now see clearly, smiling. Sasuke felt an impulse to smile as well but was stopped as some force stopped him from walking. Up until now he did not notice the low hissing from the back of his mind, before the arrogant voice seemed to exploded back into his mind, losing its once sickly calm tone. What are you doing? You are going to lose the one chance in getting your vengeance, getting the pride of the Uchiha back. You are one step from becoming your true self, and you would rather step back instead of forward. What idiocy is this? Sasuke grit his teeth as the force started to force him to step back away from his team. If you will not choose the right choice, then I will choose for you. You are to become great, great enough to sat my hunger. Hearing enough from the voice, Sasuke started to fight back against the force, not liking the thought of his choices being made for him. Through gritted teeth as he started to slowly walk back toward his team, he started to feel immense pain through his body, specifically in his neck. He felt like he was being torn apart. If making this choice takes me a step back, then I will step back 100 more. If it means that I don't become what you want me to become, and if it means that I don't become great, then so be it. I have my Uchiha pride inherited from my parents, my clansmen, and my brother. As such, I don't go back on my choices, nor will I have my choices chosen for me. Finally, after what felt like hours of struggling, Sasuke felt a part of himself get ripped out as he stumbled into the light his team was now standing in. Looking back, he saw a shadow of himself, eyes filled with intense anger. The shadow Sasuke launched itself at the real Sasuke, intending to become whole again. It had no time to do this as darkness filled Sasuke's vision again. But before it completely covered him, Sasuke heard a faint voice say, so small that Sasuke swears that he made it up. I'm proud of you, little brother. Even more excited about this, he. Outside the illusion, Kakashi felt the genjutsu dispel, at the same time that Sasuke's body fell to the floor. He was quick in turning it over only to see Sasuke's eyes still wide open, 3 tomos spinning wildly in each eye. But interestingly, they seemed to spin out of phase instead of the usual symmetrical spinning. What further shocked Kakashi was that 3 times the tomos would spin so fast, melding together before slowing down. On the final time, Kakashi was able to identify the shape of the right eye to be a 6-pointed star, which the right being a 3-pointed shape. After that, the tomos stopped spinning before the Sharingan shut off completely. At that point, Sasuke seemed to regain conciseness as he looked over at Kakashi, letting out a quiet, "Sensei." Kakashi was definitely disturbed by the apparent change in his student's eyes, but he will save it for later, seeing as he did not get there fully yet. Instead, he focused on his student's health, asking if he was alright. Letting Sasuke sit up against a boulder, he let him rest for a good half hour. After the half hour, he saw Sasuke start to stir. As such, he quickly walked over to him and crouched down. So, sleepyhead is awake. Either way, it seemed to have worked. I saw the fully matured Sharingan before you passed out. Sasuke, though still a bit shaken up, was able to give Kakashi a look that said he was fine. Though he was used to his student not talking much, he did not expect to see the well-happen relief in his eyes, and warmth. The boy hid it well, but not well enough for Kakashi to not notice. Kakashi was happy that at least something changed in his student, hopefully for the better. Eventually Sasuke was the one who spoke up. So, sensei, now that I have the full Sharingan, what was it that you wanted to teach me? Kakashi looked surprised that Sasuke would want to know so soon after just getting out of the genjutsu. Though it was Sasuke, so it was to be expected. Well, if you are so excited to learn, why would I not tell you? What I want to teach is an Uchiha technique taught to me by Obito before he died. Sasuke looked surprised that he would hear about Obito again so soon. It's called connectivity. I know it's not much of a name, but it was the best that Obito could come up with since he did create it, or at least perfect it. From the limited information he was able to tell me, he made this technique from an old principle of the Uchiha. The third Tomo's power is to give the user the power to analyze an enemy's movements and style and predict it. Apparently some of your ancestors thought it would be a good idea to use that in reverse, and instead of predicting an enemy's movements, it would be used to adapt and essentially copy an ally. This allows both the Uchiha and his ally to fight in perfect sync or perfect teamwork. Sasuke felt his eyes widen at the concept, his inherited Uchiha teachings already seeing so many problems with using such a technique. Of course, as you can tell, the Uchiha became arrogant over the years, and this technique became banned because no outstanding Uchiha would have to resort to following someone. Uchihas are only born to lead, not follow. Sasuke felt the sudden impulse to laugh, but instead chose to smirk, not used to the new feelings he was feeling yet. Well, either way, I'm going to teach you how to do it, as well as the true way to view this technique. Not the Uchiha way. I say it will take about a week. Sasuke chose to respond with, "You know that might make us late, don't you?" Flashback end. Cheer and celebrate, people. Celebrate, I say. Sasuke let the memory fade away. Coming back to reality, he saw Naruto waiting for his answer. "Fine, I'll help you. Just don't make any stupid orders." Naruto was about to whine about Sasuke being an uptight asshole, before realizing what he actually said. "A light, who are you and what have you done with the Sasuke I know?" Sasuke felt the need to face palm, but instead chose to just let out a HN as a response. Naruto would have gotten pissed off by that answer, but then remembered the situation they were in. "Right. So Sasuke, I'll start to make a Rasengan and you just add the first part of the Chidori, the part of gathering lightning, to the Rasengan. Also try to keep it under control. This may blow up in our faces since I've never tried this before." Sasuke was about to argue that was a stupid idea, but Naruto was already forming a Rasengan. Seeing no other way, he went with what Naruto asked of him. Adding lightning to his hand but keeping it from forming a Chidori, Sasuke placed his hand on top of the Rasengan, allowing the lightning to pass to the ball of chakra. Before Sasuke could even react, the lightning seemed to jump from his hand to the Rasengan, easily combining with the chakra ball. Getting over his shock, Sasuke was almost too late in reacting when suddenly Naruto raced forward toward the barrier. He was quick in running next to Naruto, keeping their combined technique as stable as can be. With a loud crash, the ball of lightning and chakra hit the barrier, causing a huge explosion. Just think of Naruto and Sasuke combo jutsu form revolution, you all know which one. Sasuke stumbled back a bit from the impact, but soon after felt a hand on his shoulder before he felt himself being moved through the crack in the purple barrier before it sealed itself up. Well, damn, finally done. So what do you guys think? I have just got to say, the original plan I had for this chapter was to have them in the barrier in the beginning and fighting who they are going to fight and finish it this chapter. But then I had an awesome idea to enhance Sasuke's character, so this chapter was necessary because it set up a lot about how Sasuke is going to be all throughout my story. But either way, next time Naruto and Sasuke, I'm going to say if right of the bat since it should be obvious at this point are going to fight the first and second Hokage. But what I want to know is how you guys think they are going to win. I can promise you guys it's all gonna make sense and not be a cheap pull, I promise, so trust me like Sasuke trusts Naruto, haha. When Sasuke came back to his senses, he noticed himself inside the purple barrier. The hole he and Naruto had made already closing up. Looking behind him, Sasuke saw Naruto, who was looking out into the forest they were in. Wait, forest? This can't be, we are on a roof. Naruto, hearing Sasuke's question, looked toward him before answering. It's not supposed to be possible, at least not anymore since the first Hokage's death. I have a very bad feeling about this. Sasuke would have questioned further, but seeing that Naruto was just as confused as he was, he dropped it in favor of another question. How did you get us into the barrier anyway? It closed up almost instantly after we broke a hole through it. Naruto looked like he was contemplating something before answering. It's something I came up with a few weeks ago, basically a shunshin, but I modified it. I made it so that I could do it at a second's notice with no hand seals. Think of Shisui's mastery of the shunshin. Sasuke looked shocked that someone could actually remake Shisui's level of mastery over shunshin. Naruto is just surprising him too many times today. He was not able to think any more though since Naruto continued to speak. Don't think that I actually have it mastered though. I'm still a complete novice in using it, I just pretty much cheated. The way mine works is that instead of using hand seals and visual aids to pick out where I want to move, I tap one of my feet on any solid object, front of my foot if I want to go forward, back of my foot if I want to go back. Basically it is very fast but linear since I can go only in a straight line in a short distance. That's why I call it Rinneya Shunshin, or linear shunshin. It has its uses. Sasuke did not know whether he wanted to be impressed that he was able to recreate to a degree a skilled shinobi's style or annoyed that Naruto had pretty much half-assed learning the shunshin. Both teens were cut off from their conversation by a large spike in chakra and an explosion of water toward one edge of the barrier. Naruto and Sasuke looked toward each other and with a quick nod they both launched off toward where they saw the explosion. With Orochimaru and Hiruzen jumped back into a backflip to dodge an attack from the reanimated first Hokage Hashirama Senju, only to be hit from behind by a gush of water from the reanimated second Hokage Tobirama Senju. Tobirama's jutsu held enough force to propel Hiruzen into the roof, causing him to crash hard against the tiles. Hiruzen got up into a shaky crouch glaring at a gloating Orochimaru, who after summoning the reanimated Hokages had decided to just stand there enjoying seeing his old sensei getting beat. Hiruzen had to admit that he was angry, not only at Orochimaru but himself for not being able to keep up with the corpses of his predecessors, the ones he had promised he would protect the village to. Seeing Hiruzen panting while in a crouch, Orochimaru ordered the Hokages to come and stop in front of himself. Well, sensei, you seem out of breath. Could it be that your age is finally catching up to you? You know it is a good idea to hand down the hat at your age. Orochimaru added as much sarcasm and barely restrained glee into his statement. Hiruzen with some effort, got up to his feet and got into a stance, his Enma bow staff at the ready. So after all these years you still hold that childish grudge for me picking Minato instead of you to be Hokage? Hearing Hiruzen's statement, Orochimaru's face seemed to contort into a half-angry, half-gleeful expression. Oh, how wrong you are, sensei. I don't care about your choice however wrong it was, nor did I ever care about the Hokage position. It was just a passing interest. The Hokage position would have given me free rein in not only my experiments but as many test subjects as I wanted. No, sensei, I attack your village for the simple reason that Konoha is not needed in this world anymore. It has become weak, so weak that it is a miracle to me that you have not been attacked earlier, what with how easy it was to set this whole invasion up. Hiruzen would have liked to say that it shocked him to hear Orochimaru say these things, but a small part of him knew that already. This same part also reminded him that it was his fault that Orochimaru is doing this now. Of course, killing you is just a bonus, Orochimaru said with a sinister smile as he started to raise his hand to order the Hokage to continue their assault on Hiruzen. This was stopped when two kunai came rushing out of the forest heading for Orochimaru. The reanimated Hokage and Orochimaru noticed the kunai before they could get within a few feet of them. The Hokage jumped to either side while Orochimaru jumped backwards. What Orochimaru did not expect was for the kunai to turn in midair and start to spiral around Orochimaru as he was in the motion of jumping back. A second later, Orochimaru was wrapped up in ninja wire. He had all but a second to think before he was suddenly rocked with a violent explosion as the wire detonated. The Hokage landed on either side of the explosion but did not move, seeing as they still had no order form the snake Sanin. The smoke the explosion brought up cleared to show Orochimaru crouched down a few meters away unhurt. Clearly he was able to get out of the wire before it detonated. That was not what confused the snake Sanin though. What did was who was able to enter the barrier since it was still up. He got his answer when two shadows jumped from the forest to land in front of Hiruzen. Orochimaru would have been pissed with anyone who dared to interrupt his perfectly laid out plan, but finally seeing who one of the two were, he was willing to make an exception. Well, Sasuke. When I said that you would come to me after I gave you the gift, I did not mean so early. Are you really that thirsty for my power? Naruto and Sasuke stared at the snake Sanin with equal looks of discomfort. Sasuke because he knew what Orochimaru meant, but it still sounded wrong on so many levels, and Naruto simply because of how wrong it sounded. Naruto was the first to break the silence that sounded after what Orochimaru said. Orochimaru the snake Sanin, I would ask what you are doing here. But I can make a good guess what is happening here, but with the first two Hokage here it's pretty obvious. Orochimaru finally turned his hungry, wow, that really does sound wrong. Is it normal to feel wrong writing Orochimaru, gaze from Sasuke to Naruto. Ah, the Kyuubi brat as well. This should be fun. I get to kill two birds with one stone since you two are here. Hiruzen hearing enough finally spoke up behind the teens. Naruto, Sasuke, what are you two doing here? Whatever you two did to get in here you need to leave now, the situation is way more than you are able to handle. Naruto would have liked to give Hiruzen a comforting smile but decided that at the moment he could not risk letting the snake Sanin out of his gaze. Don't worry old man, I had a feeling that you needed help and I was right. What with having to fight Orochimaru and the first two Hokage, they may be reanimated but even still this will be tough for you either way. So don't worry Sasuke, and I got this. Still not turning his head away from Orochimaru, Naruto gave the old man a thumbs up behind his back. No, you two absolutely are not allowed to help. The level of opponents is too great for either of you to handle. Please just get OU. Hiruzen was interrupted by Orochimaru, who had gotten up and walked forward a bit before he spoke. No sensei, let them help. This would be a great chance to test Sasuke. First and second, would you two be a dear and take care of them? Mangle and beat them up, but keep them alive. I still have uses for both of them. Hiruzen would have continued to argue or even run in front of the teens had it not been for Naruto grabbing Sasuke, and within seconds the two were gone. The Hokages were quick to follow, disappearing after the two teens. Hiruzen got ready to follow the teens, but was interrupted by Orochimaru attacking him. I hope you two know what you are doing. And please don't die before I can deal with Orochimaru. Hiruzen thought as he began to fight with Orochimaru with more ferocity than before. With Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto and Sasuke landed in a relatively big clearing with the artificially made trees circling around the clearing. Looking around the clearing, Naruto nodded before saying, "Okay, this will do, now what do we do?" Sasuke looked almost panicked at what Naruto had said. Wait, you are telling me that you have no plan, but you still decided it was a good idea to challenge the first two Hokages? Are you actually mentally retarded? Naruto was about to respond but was not able to, seeing as they both heard two sets of feet jump into the clearing. Naruto turned around to see the first two Hokage land across the clearing from them. Surprisingly, it was Hashirama that spoke up first. Okay, so you two have 3 minutes before I start to attack. Take the time to plan whatever plan you guys can come up with. Though it is probably not going to help. Naruto and Sasuke looked shell-shocked that the two did not attack first. 2 minutes and 57 seconds, And to answer the questions you guys want to ask, I will attack first, and if you can somehow defeat me, then my brother will attack. To answer why we are doing this, it's simple. We don't want to kill promising Konoha ninja. It goes against everything we stand for, but in this situation we have no choice. We were ordered to deal with both of you, but he did not specify how we are to do so. As such, we want to give you two a chance to live. Attack with the intent to kill. We are already dead, so it does not matter. Oh, and 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Naruto's instant thoughts were that they have a chance, but how to attack them when suddenly it came to him how they would take care of them. I have an idea on how we are going to stop them. They are just reanimated corpses, made from the Edo Tensei technique. From what I learned from Jiraiya's handbook on seals, the Edo Tensei revives a soul with a human sacrifice. But considering I don't think Orochimaru perfected the technique yet, they are only at about 10% of their total power, give or take. Which gives us a chance. If I can get close enough, I can put a certain seal onto them which should dispel the Edo Tensei. That is, if I can remember the seal. I only looked over it briefly since I never thought I would have to fight it any time soon. Sasuke looked thoughtful as he let everything that Naruto said sink in. He barely heard Hashirama say a minute and 30 seconds left. He was thinking for a way to get the upper hand on the two Hokages when he remembered what he last learned from Kakashi. There is one thing that can help. It's something I learned from Kakashi right before we came back to Konoha. Sasuke wasted no time in explaining what connectivity was. When he finished his explanation, Naruto looked intrigued. So can you use it right away? No, not right away at least. Connectivity requires that I know the person personally and have fought with him for some time. But you are much different than before. If you can give me 5 minutes, I think I can adjust to the new you and be ready to use it. Naruto thought for a few seconds, but time was running out for them, seeing as Hashirama shouted out that only 30 seconds remained. Alright, stay back and observe, keep up and only attack if necessary. As soon as you are ready, we will go full speed and stop the first. Hopefully we can do this before he has a chance to take either of us down. Sasuke nodded his head and activated his Sharingan, eyes instantly trained onto Naruto. As soon as he did this, Naruto rushed out toward Hashirama, who had shouted out that time was up. As soon as the words left Hashirama's mouth, Naruto was on him, dropping below the Hokage's guard and punching upwards. Hashirama did not even bat an eye as he easily caught the uppercut, sending his own haymaker toward Naruto's face. Seeing this, Naruto leaned to the side, letting the fist fly by his head. Using his earlier momentum, he brought up his knee, intending to knee the Hokage in the chin. The knee connected, making Hashirama lean back a bit, but with a show of agility the Hokage flipped backwards, kicking the blonde away, making him crash and slide on the ground. Not wasting a moment, Naruto was back on his feet, bringing up a double arm guard to block a punch from Hashirama, who in a show of speed appeared next to Naruto. Blocking the punch, Naruto's eye bulged as he felt his arms scream in agony from the strength of the punch. Shaking off the pain, Naruto retaliated by grabbing Hashirama's arm in a lock and brought his other arm to punch the Hokage in the face. The punch connected, shoving the Hokage back a bit. Naruto was on him, instantly flicking his wrist, sending wires to wrap around the Hokage. Not even seconds later, the wires detonated, bringing up a cloud of smoke. Naruto landed next to Sasuke, who, while Naruto was engaging Hashirama, stayed back to observe the blonde. Sasuke had seen everything that Naruto had done, and to say he was impressed would be an understatement. To think that he is able to keep up with the first Hokage, given that they are only a fraction of their true power, but still. How far ahead of me are you, Naruto? But something is weird. All through the fight the Hokage did not look like he was worried at all. It's like he was not even trying. Sasuke was brought out of his thoughts when he heard clapping coming from the cloud of smoke. Both Naruto and Sasuke's eyes widened when they saw an unharmed Hashirama standing there. Hashirama looked almost pleased. Haha, you are better than I thought. You attacked alone, but even still was able to keep up, even push me back a little. Congrats. But sadly now I'm going to get serious. I think it's time to use some jutsu, other than simple chakra enhanced strength. You've been given a chance to take me out while I was holding back, but you decided to attack alone. It's your own fault for doing so. Hashirama finished talking and took another stance that radiated chakra, so much that it was visible. Naruto, seeing this, quickly started speaking. Sasuke, back me up, hang back and finish observing, but watch my back, he is serious now. What I was fighting before was a joke compared to now. We have to get in close and not allow him to form hand seals, we have to keep him from using jutsu. Sasuke quickly steeled himself, getting ready to assault the former Hokage. Just as Hashirama started to form hand seals, Naruto disappeared from beside Sasuke only to appear next to the Hokage, attacking him fiercely, forcing him to stop and focus his attention on the blonde. Sasuke saw Naruto getting overwhelmed quickly, seeing as he was forced to dodge all of Hashirama's counters because of the man's strength, and when he saw Naruto trapped and about to be hit, he ran forward, launching a quick jab at the Hokage.